what a school garden is. A school garden is magical because there's no technology in a school garden. So kids are communicating with one another. Kids are making eye contact with one another. They're figuring out ways to work together. And that impact goes over into the classroom.
Hey there, it's Jolly with Interrupt Hunger. Before we get to today's episode, I'm going to tell you a little story. We live in Boerne, Texas, about 45 minutes northwest of San Antonio, in the beautiful Texas Hill Country. We have 3 girls who are 26, 22, and 6. When Kelsey and Katie were young, recycling was talked about a lot in school. If I tried to throw away plastic, they'd call me out and say, "Dad, you need to recycle that." Well, what if we could do the same thing with physical activity and healthy eating? If we can get our kids in the habit of healthy behaviors, they'll bring their parents along for the ride. And schools are a great place to start because parents and students love going to activities at school. Our youngest daughter, Enz, is going into first grade at Herf Elementary. So I had the idea to start a monthly family fitness night to get folks moving. We're going to make this super easy and informal. You need loud music, map out a course around the school, then get the word out through the PTO, school announcements, and the weekly school's newsletter. That's it. Hopefully, this will be a spark to get families into the habit of exercising together and foster a stronger community at the same time. My wife and I volunteer there a lot, so we know the staff. I started with Coach Clark, our PE coach, who loved the idea and told me to talk to Principal Hammond. She loved the idea and told me to talk to Coach Leach, the school district athletic director, who's also over PE for the district. And of course, he loved the idea. Coach Leach recommended to focus on her first, get all the kinks worked out, blow it up, and make the other principals and PTOs jealous so they'd want to bring a monthly family fitness night to their campuses as well. Well, that process was really fun and actually fairly easy. So I had this crazy idea. What if we really blew things up and tried to make Boerne the healthiest small town in Texas? Catchy, right? When towns try to get healthy, they typically pass bonds to build things like parks and bike lanes. I'm a cyclist. I love bike lanes, but it's way too big and doesn't involve the average citizen. I want to activate the entire town. Think of the low-hanging fruit of healthy initiatives. Let's raise the noise level and create an entire ecosystem of physical activity and healthy eating so that everywhere you turn, we're making it easier for folks to get healthy. When I went to talk to the mayor to get his support at City Hall, someone told me to take the elevator to the 3rd floor when the stairs were right there. Let's put signs at every elevator in town pointing the way to the stairs. We have a couple generations in America who never learned to cook. We have amazing restaurants in Boerne. What if we asked chefs at these amazing restaurants to teach the town how to cook? Nothing fancy. I'm talking basics, like how to saute vegetables. What if we tried to get healthier foods in public places? Could we encourage parents to bring bottled water and fruit after parks and rec practices and games? Could we encourage businesses with vending machines to add healthy choices? Could we encourage food trucks and concessions to add healthy choices as well? What if we asked our medical practices to add the evidence-based hunger as a vital sign to their EMR and start screening for food insecurity? We could partner with local food banks and the WIC office to accept referrals. And some of these practices might even bring a tiny food pantry into their practice. And I know this because in a very near episode, we're going to talk to a pediatrician who's doing just that, about an hour away from us. It's a really cool story. We can also ask our medical practices to add the evidence-based physical activity as a vital sign to their EMR. Both of these are simple 2-question screening tools a medical assistant can do on intake. Just asking someone if they're exercising is sometimes enough of a spark to get them going. Just like when you go to the dentist, the dental hygienist is going to ask you if you flossed. Even if you lie, flossing is going to be stuck in your head. You're going to do it a little more. Now, the flip side of docs asking patients to exercise is the need to create a network of physical therapists, exercise specialists, YMCAs, gyms, and yoga studios in town who can handle exercise assessments and exercise prescriptions. We have a bunch of other ideas we gathered, but I think you get the idea of what we're trying to accomplish. Keep it simple, make it easy. Y'all, 20% of our entire GDP goes to healthcare spending. 73% of Americans have overweight or obesity, and 9 out of the 10 of the leading causes of death in America are due to poor nutrition because we live in an ultra-processed food environment we can't escape. And the vast majority of us don't exercise. A roadmap for this doesn't exist, so we're going to make one. We're going to use Interrupt Hunger and the Movie Give podcast to draw a roadmap others can follow. So with today's episode, we're starting a new series called Healthiest Small Towns. Each episode will be a how-to guide for healthy initiatives. The idea is to build in public and show step-by-step what we're doing in Boerne and how we did it. So, all this brings us to today's guest. Just like we've forgotten how to cook, we also have a couple generations who never learned to grow a garden. So today, we have the most infectious bundle of positivity you've ever heard talk about kids and dirt to tell us how to start a school garden. Kelly Douglas is the director of the Superintendent's Office for the Westland Wilsonville School District in Oregon, specializing in policy work, relationship building, and organizational servant leadership. I just love that. She served 26 years in public education, spending much of her time creating and cultivating school gardens during those years. Outside of school, Kelly tends to her 26 goats and Marima dogs alongside her husband on their 13-acre Filbert farm in Mount Angel, Oregon. She's a well-known motivational speaker, master manifester, and the unofficial ambassador of agricultural joy. Kelly Douglas, thank you so much for joining us today.
That is me. That is me. I love to be the unofficial ambassador of agricultural joy because I know the benefits that you can get with just dirt, just having dirt and your community come together and you think, oh my gosh, it's just a pile of dirt. What are we going to do with it? But by the time everybody brings, like rock soup, by the time everybody brings everything together, you have a flourishing living legacy. And so what I'd like to spend some time with you today talking about is how I created Oregon's 500th school garden with zero funds and writing grants and gathering $30,000 in donations.
That sounds amazing. Can't wait. So with that, tell us a little bit about yourself and really what inspired you to start a garden?
Thank you. Thanks, Jolly. Well, I was at Molalla High School. I was at Molalla for 17 years before I moved over here. I'm actually in Westland Wilsonville School District right now. I've been here for 10 years. And so this work we did in 2013 and 2014. And we created Oregon's 500th school garden at the Molalla High School campus. And it was absolutely phenomenal, just amazing. The amount of community excitement, the excitement on campus, everybody really wanted to be a part of it. And so I've been speaking about, school gardens for 11 years now. And we have quite a few school districts that have also jumped on the bandwagon to create a club because what you find is school gardens only last for about 3 to 5 years. And they're normally at the younger schools, the primary schools. And it's because they're cute and fun and they can do it with a classroom teacher and with parental involvement. But when that mom or that parent or guardian that always comes, when they move on with their child, often the garden dies. And so what do we need to have school garden sustainability? Because you've invested the money, you've written grants, you have wonderful opportunity, but what's the sustainability? It's all excitement. Everybody wants to jump on and be a part of it. But when, a year into it, 2 years into it, how do you really maintain that longevity for a living legacy? And so I'd really like to spend some time with you, Jolly, and talk about a school garden and the magic of a school garden and the opportunities of a school garden for students and how to get your community involved with a school garden with sustainability so that you can say, yeah, that garden's been here for 20 years and it's very loved and very well maintained instead of it just being a 1 or 2 year project.
Just take a moment and tell us about your community. What's the town like? And then
sure. So I'm in Oregon, and Molalla, Oregon is a very rural town, about 9,800 people in the town, and with a Molalla River going through it. It's named after the Molalla Indians. The Molalla High School has about 750, 800 students in it, and we at Molalla were very popular for the rodeo. And so that's really what you had in town. There was a bowling alley and the rodeo fairgrounds that were closed during the year. So really not a lot of things for students to do over there. And, the kids all live way up, twisted, way up in back roads and crossing. And way up the mountain, but they all come down to the heart of the city, which is the school. And so when you have all of that youth in one place, it's magical. And that's the future of our community is the youth. And so bringing a school garden to a small town like Molalla with support of outer agencies was truly impactful, to the point where we had multiple newspaper articles written about us. People wanted to come and offer money to help us, to help pay for anything. People wanted to come and offer to help on the weekends if we needed any elbow grease and worker bees. And it was all because of a school garden. And it really inspired a multi-generational movement in Molalla that was really magical. And we started with just an idea, just a thought for a school garden. I had gone and taught a class up at college somewhere in Portland. I had taught a class on Russians. I'm a Russian Orthodox old believer. This is why I have this scarf on. Once we're married, our hair is not shown again in public, and we always have a dress on. And very similar to Catholicism, very similar, but it's Russian Orthodox old believer. And part of what we do, Jolly, is we cook and we can and we butcher. And if we didn't grow it, we probably aren't going to eat it. And we're going to milk the cow and make the butter. And we're going to grow the peppers and can them. We're going to go fish and can the fish. We're going to go hunt and we're going to smoke it. And so being that earthy culture, and looking outside of Molalla at the dirt out there, I thought, we have so many opportunities for these students to really dig in, and we can teach them how to grow their own food, teach them how to fish, and they can eat forever. And so we thought that it would be a really great idea to get the students involved outside in the dirt. And it started with just an idea, and it grew into fruition. And I'd love to share with you how we came about that. And hopefully others can see that it is an idea that's not so huge and overarching that you can't start. You can start like in September, like you said, you can start a school garden in September. You really can. And it's a pretty simple process. And I'd love to dig in with you.
That sounds great. It's funny as you're talking, I'm thinking a couple things like dirt is magical. It really is, because like every single kid that has ever been born loves playing in the dirt.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun to play with your kids in the
Yes.
dirt. But then we grow up and for most of us, we forget about that magic. So some of that is I think we can get that back. And
that's our goal. That's what a school garden is. A school garden is magical because there's no technology in a school garden. So kids are communicating with one another. Kids are making eye contact with one another. They're figuring out ways to work together. And that impact goes over into the classroom.
That's what neat. A few months ago, one of the boys that was in class with Enns last year and this year had a 5th birthday, and I think Inslee was the only girl invited, and it seemed like there was 15 boys. If you can imagine, like 5 and 6-year-old boys, how loud it is, right?
Yeah.
So we're over at their house having fun. I'm talking to a dad I just met, and then all of a sudden I just realized, it's quiet. Like, okay, that's weird.
Yeah. What are they doing? Let's go check.
What happened? And so I go out, I look right in the backyard, and I don't see any kids in the backyard. And then so I go outside, and around the corner, Mason's dad had built some raised beds. And the kids were completely fascinated by the idea that you pull up a carrot out of the dirt, rinse it off, and you can eat
it.
And that was the coolest thing about the birthday party, and like coolest birthday party ever. And that was like, oh my gosh, that was like my spark for wanting to get things going with the school garden. And I realized, like, I remember trying to grow a garden when I was younger, but I haven't done it in forever. It's just like cooking. Like, we skipped a couple generations of learning how to cook and learning how to garden. So with that, why don't you kind of show us the path?
I'll walk you through it. Sure, I'll walk you through it. So starting a school garden is really a community event because it's nothing that you do siloed. It's nothing that you do in a corner. There's a lot of people looking, a lot of people watching, and a lot of people that want to get involved. And so the first thing that you should do is talk to your school principal. Ask your school principal if there's a space that could be dedicated to a school garden. And so once you have the yes from your principal, then you need to also make sure that in tandem with that is the club advisor, that the principal has the club advisor. And that club advisor is going to set the tone and ambiance for the program. So your club advisor has to believe and see the vision and know that the simpleness of dirt is going to create a magical living legacy. And so once you have those two items in place, your principal says yes, the principal has the club advisor that has also agreed, then you put your proposal together for the school board and let your school board know. So we had students that came over to the school board and presented our idea, and they wholeheartedly said yes. And they asked how they could help. They asked how they could be involved. And one of the important aspects is a summertime process, because your garden is going to grow through the summer and school's out. And so we were able to let the school board know that we had families signed up a week at a time to come and water and harvest through the garden. And they said yes. They absolutely said yes. And so we put up the sign outside the library that, said, we're going to be starting a school garden. Is anybody excited? Anybody interested? And the name of the club is called Culture Club. And the students came up with it. It started with just a handful of students. And before you knew it, it was 15, 20, 25, 40, 50, 150 students. Out of 750, 800 students, we had 150 students in the club. And those were part of Culture Club. Those students signed up and participated in Culture Club. And we also partnered with every single club on campus, the National Honor Society Club, the band club, the travel club, any type of club that was available. We had them come in so that they also felt like they were a part of the school garden. If they like welding, the welding kids made a whole bunch of sunflowers for us out of horseshoes, and they put them all together. So we had these beautiful sunflower horseshoes outside. And just so exciting. There's so many opportunities out there in a school garden, but you don't have any money. So how do you start your school garden with no money? So what we did is we wrote a grant to Figaro's for $100. We asked Figaro's Pizza if they would please give us a grant of $100. And we got a roll of butcher paper, some paint, and paintbrushes. And we started making signs for Culture Club for the kids that wanted to join. And then we started going and knocking on doors and asking if any of the local Ace Hardware, if they would like to donate shovels and buckets and wheelbarrows. And in return, we had each one of the students in Culture Club signed a release for their photo to be used, because you're exchanging marketing with that community business. They want to help our youth, but everybody loves to have a photo together. So if you have an Ace Hardware wheelbarrow going by with a student pushing it, that's win-win. And it really keeps everybody involved. And then what you can do is write a grant. You can find so many little small $500 grants, $2,000 grants, $5,000 grants. And the major part about a grant is the story. Because the story has to be, okay, what's the grant about? What do you need? And who's going to benefit? And who's going to be involved in it? And so we wrote a grant for $2,500 to keep the vegetables in. Because we were going to harvest all these vegetables. Where were we going to keep them? And what were we going to do with them? And so that's one thing that you can think about for your money. You have grant opportunity, which is phenomenal. You have donation opportunity. Your community is really going to be really excited. They're really going to want to come and bring some good money for you. We wrote a grant for the local phone company, and they donated 11 laptops for our officers to use, because we had 11 student officers, because they were often in the garden until dark. And then I would drive them all home. Well, they didn't have laptops at home to use to do their homework and their college applications. And so the local phone company donated 11 laptops for them to use. And then the next year went to the next officers. And we went to the local seed company and asked if they would donate seeds. We went to the local nursery and asked if they would donate dirt for the raised beds. We went to the local quarry and asked if they would donate gravel for the walking paths. And we got to go down into the quarry and pick giant boulders, huge boulders. And they were for reading rocks so that the kids could go and sit in a nice boulder warmed by the sun and read, because reading totally rocks. And we went and wrote a small grant for steppables so that we could get all these steppable, soft, spongy ground cover outside. We got $800 worth of steppables for the garden that was donated to us so that the children could, lay down out there in the sun and read their book, or lay down out there and practice for the next test and be able to really get a sense of calm in them in the middle of a school day.
So let me ask you, writing grants for someone that's never done it before might sound kind of scary and a lot. So, how did you learn how to write a grant?
You have to believe that you can do it. Believe that there's friends holding your hand on either side. Believe that you're never alone, and dig in and be aggressive. Because if we just sit off to the side and say, I wish I had some money. Well, go knock in, go ask for it for the youth, because the youth deserve our efforts. They deserve us to create the opportunity for them, because they have to have an adult to lead them. They have to have an adult to be there to make sure that they're safe. Well, let's do that. Let's go ahead and do that. And let's be aggressive in our grant writing. In this one grant that we wrote, it was for $2,500. And one of the best things that I can suggest for a club that wants to start a school garden is to connect with your local 4-H. Now, Texas has 4-H. In fact, the Texas Foundation has a fundraiser coming up. It's the National Food Challenge on October 1st, and it's going to be at the State Fair. And they also have a fishing contest coming up, and all that raises money for the 4-H program. So you can connect your gardening club, your culture club, with the Texas 4-H. And you can start applying for grants. And also, people like to donate because there's a tax number, a tax code. So when they donate as a 4-H group, you can give them that tax code. So that helps.
So where did the money actually go to? Like the tax number? Did you use the schools or the school district?
We used the 4-H tax number because we were a 4-H club. So when people donated to us, like if somebody like Sherwin-Williams donated $1,000 worth of stain for the fences, we gave them the 4-H tax number.
Oh, okay.
For donation.
So if a company was given a donation to the school, maybe to start, that would be the best.
Yeah, because the school does have their tax ID number too.
And companies give money to the school all the time, so that makes sense. Okay, or maybe the PTO or something. I think they can figure that out. The principal will be able to direct you on that part. Definitely.
And being a 4-H club really brings a lot of validity to your group of students. And it also inspires the adults and the alumni, because they see that our youth are willing to get their hands dirty. They're willing to go out in a garden with no technology at all, just them and dirt. And it's inspiring. And out of that communication with all of your stakeholders, the people that want to see the youth do good, you're just going to grow and flourish, and people are going to have more and more ideas, and people want to come, and it's going to layer and layer and grow. And so writing a grant is fairly simple. It's really about the story. And if you were just to go online and look for small grants in your local county, I think, are you in Kendall County?
We are. Yep, just northwest of San Antonio.
Yeah, so you could look up Kendall County grant opportunities and see for any gardening programs or refrigerator, or even for knives or bowls or food processors, anything like that. We wrote a grant for a refrigerator, and the vision was to create a fruit and veggie healthy market garden cart, earning money that will be reinvested to sell and distribute the low-cost veggies to at-risk youth, to create a multicultural marketing and health promotional plan to increase community awareness, provide free physical activity and healthy eating, increase the capacity of youth to provide leadership and sustainable efforts in healthy food access, guide youth in the process of writing a business plan, tracking costs, and to secure funding and donations for the market card. And so that was approved. And I'm more than happy to share that with any of your constituents that reach out to you, just to let them know it really is about the story. What's your plan? Okay. Your plan is help. Your plan is to bring students together. Well, how are you going to keep it going? You can do that.
And you don't have to write grants certainly help, but there's a ton of small businesses in your community, and probably some small business owners whose kids go to your school that
knock on doors.
That would be a great
knock on doors.
Tell them what you're trying to do, and you find. So my middle daughter ran for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society Student of the Year several years ago when she was still in high school, and it's really kind of nervous when you start asking people for money, but by the end of that several week challenge, you find you get addicted to asking people money for like a good cause. It gets really fun, and you find out very quickly that people in the community love helping kids.
They do.
At a good cause. So it's a lot easier than it sounds.
It's just humanity. We're all here together. We all need to care about each other. The pandemic really separated us from one another. And I think right now we're doing damage control and trying to get our youth back into community, feeling comfortable in community. And our community is hungry for that connection. And so the work that you're doing by bringing people together with your podcast and with your nonprofit, Interrupt Hunger, this is a community that's just really going to thrive with opportunity. We want it. Any door you go knocking on and say, I want to talk to you about healthy food and our youth. That's our most precious, beloved community members are our youth. And so, pull up a chair, have a seat. What are you doing? What can I help? What can I donate? How can I give? Where are you going to start? We built our garden in 12 hours.
That's amazing.
12 hours. We had a whole team cooking, making a vegan meal for 80 people. And then we had the team outside. I actually have a picture of the garden that we created. And we got a local construction company donated the time to us. So you can see we had raised beds with the fence around it. And then in the middle, we had, you can see the trees there. We had students, we built a bench around it. We call it the friendship bench. And then over on the concrete, we had raised beds, waist-high beds in the shape of a 4 and an H, so that any students or community members that came to garden with us had access on the concrete.
Okay.
And so it's a magical place. You have so many opportunities out there, but also with the gardening club, what we did over at Molalla is we taught the kids kindness. When they were out in the club, they were with one another. And every month we had dinner and a movie, and all the kids just got together. We did all the cooking ourselves. One night we didn't have a lot of money, so we just made soup and bread. And the Russians cooked the bread, baked the bread in the school cafeteria, and the Latinos made the soup in the kitchen. And we all came together and we watched Finding Nemo in the library. Okay. But we washed all the dishes. We did all the cooking and the chopping ourselves. And all of that is just kids coming together. And when we started Culture Club in Molalla, we quickly found that the instances of vandalism outside pretty much became zero because people cared about the garden. People cared about what was happening out there. Our instances of bullying and harassment went down 66%.
Why don't you say that again?
The instances of harassment and bullying went down 66% with the inclusion.
I love that. I don't know how many. I've told a couple dozen people that. And wait a minute, what'd you say? How'd they do that?
Dirt. We did it over dirt. We did it with dirt because we got kids out there. Kids were excited. They saw the seeds popping up in the library. We became big brother, big sisters with the middle school so we could go over and garden with them. They came over and gardened with us.
Right.
Ranch was banned because of the high sugar content. And so we asked our kids, ranch from the school lunches was banned during that year. And so we asked the kids, who wants to go over to the middle school and make hummus? Oh my gosh. Two of our boys, Elicio and I'm not sure the other one, raised their hands and said, we want to go. So after school, they walked over to the middle school, took out all the beans that were donated by Bob's Red Mill, where all the garbanzo beans were donated. Everything was donated. You just ask and they donate. We actually wrote a grant for a popcorn machine. Big giant popcorn machine. And then we got, organic coconut oil. And then we got organic popcorn donated to us. And we sold it after school for 50 cents. So the kids could have some real food. But anyways, they went over after school, walked over and got the younger kids in the cafeteria. And they made hummus for the next school's lunch and put it in little containers and then cleaned and wiped everything up and put it all away and then went home. These are kids that you're giving them a sense of pride. You're giving them a sense of purpose. They're like, I'll help. I'll go do that. I'll help you. I'll help that. The seeds popped. Everybody was excited for the day that we were going to plant our special education program. All of the students in the special education program at Molalla were so excited to come out and we're right elbow to elbow with the kids planting and harvesting. It's an amazing opportunity and it's all because of dirt. And our motto, I'd like to share it with you.
Please do.
Molalla High School is our lake of knowledge. Culture Club is the pebble dropped in the middle, and the ripples created are Culture Club students spreading kindness, tolerance, acceptance, and positive energy throughout campus. We are teenagers fighting childhood one tomato at a time. And this is their shirt that they created. And it's out of many, we become one. And they designed it. That's the back. It says Culture Club Gardens. So the kids designed it. So, because when you have 150 kids, you need to know who an officer is. So when somebody's bending over, it says officer. Because they're all out there with their heads in the dirt. And so it was just such a wonderful opportunity. And one of the teachers let me know, because we wore our shirts every Thursday. And one of the teachers let me know that on Thursdays, when he sees a Culture Club student in his class, that he expects more. Because he knows that student is a leader. That student is practicing using their voice for leadership. They are practicing helping and being kind. And so if you have your expectations here, that's what you're going to get. If you have your expectations up here, those children are going to thrive and they're going to rise to it. And they want that opportunity. And you can do that with a school garden. Our students went to the state legislation. They testified 3 times during live legislative hearings on the importance of school gardens.
Oh, wow.
It is just so many opportunities. We would donate excess food to Meals on Wheels so that our elders in the community were eating. The town of Estacada had a fire and they were evacuated. The kids picked 109 pounds of food, made a beautiful poster, and drove it in their own cars on their own gas money to the few cities over to go donate to the firefighters and to where they were preparing the meals for the communities. Yeah. And this is just, they suggested that. They're the ones that thought of the idea. But that's what this does, is it scoops up all your kids on campus that maybe don't have a place to belong. Maybe they're not at sports. Maybe they're not in band. Maybe they're not in National Honor Society. Maybe their parents aren't home very much, or they don't really have a good place at home to be. So you just see them on campus. Well, what a Culture Club does is it scoops up all those kids and gives them a home. And that home is in the garden. And that home is with all those students on campus that maybe they didn't know. But because they're out there getting dirty and cooking and eating together and harvesting, they have a place to belong. And they have a place to put their efforts and a place to put their energy and a place to feel really proud about what they're doing and then talk. Because we had so many tours. So many people wanted to come and see the garden. Legislators came, different gardening clubs came, different schools came. It's just an amazing opportunity. We were able to get the Healthy Garden cart started. And so what that was is just a cart we found back in a corner and we cleaned it all up. And we pushed it around after school, the kids did. And they had little boats, just a little boat container. And they had fresh vegetables from the garden that they had harvested and washed, and a pita, and then hummus that they made. And we sold that for $1.50 because there's no live food on campus. Kids are getting ready to go to plays or practices. all their chips and soda in the locker. And so we would have the healthy garden cart. The kids would push it all around the school. And the kids knew that they could get some live food. Or if they didn't have any money, we would give it to them. And that the kids knew. They got really excited about it. It was really awesome to see, like a whole pack of wrestling team waiting on campus. And they come over, Mrs. Douglas, can we go snack? Yes, but you have to wash it first. To see them out there just getting handfuls of lemon cucumbers and eating them. And it's so amazing. There's so much curriculum that's already created for school gardens. In Oregon, the Oregon Department of Education has a full curriculum online for school gardens that you can get the core standards curriculum to meet reading, math goals, whatever it is. And that's already been created and is waiting for you there to access. So teachers don't have to recreate the wheel when they're out there.
Taking some notes. We'll include all of this. You send me a ton of information. We'll include all of this in the show notes. So let me ask you, like, some of the practical things that you'll need to do. You mentioned a few times about sharing the rewards of the garden with others. So was there any like policies that y'all had to navigate with that?
I connected with Rick Sherman, the school garden coordinator for the state of Oregon. And Rick Sherman really partnered hand in hand with us. We also partnered with the Oregon State University. And so both of them really helped guide us through this process. And so if anybody there in Texas connects with your local 4-H or connects with your local Texas State University gardening, I believe that you could also get that support. And so, on the Oregon Department of Education, they already had all of the outdoor food safety. Rick Sherman created that manual already on how to harvest food from the garden. And so I'm a school garden coordinator, and I had gone through all the training for food safety. And so you have to have wash stations. There's certain things you have to have. But that would come about with your partnerships, whoever's supporting you.
So that's probably a good time to plug Rick's podcast, because that's actually how I found you. And the podcast is called Farm to School.
Yes.
And I was searching for like anything out there, any kind of podcast that talked about school gardens, and yours was the first one. And I heard this, and I was listening to it as I'm driving. So your voice coming through is what got me hooked on.
Thank you.
On school gardens. So that was pretty special. So so Oregon University, OSU, right? Oregon State
OSU.
University. So I did hear they offer a certification you can do online.
When I took mine, it was in person back in 2012, and it was like weeks, maybe.
Anybody around the country can take this course.
I believe so. It's with Rick and Michelle. And Rick Sherman is a force. He truly is. He and I have been doing this work for a decade. He and I used to present for the Oregon School Boards Association on school gardens, but we presented so many times. There's nothing more for us to present about other than to go out in person. And so that's what Rick and I like to do. We like to support others that are getting ready to start their own school garden. And the partnership with OSU was invaluable. It really was. And it helped us have some fresh ideas, like the Healthy Market Garden Cart. We wrote that grant. The kids are pushing the cart around. But also what came out of that was a micro enterprise business plan where the kids after school, the teachers would put in their order for what types of produce they wanted from the garden. We sold everything at $1.25 a pound. And so that we had a checklist of everything that was ready when it was ripe. The teachers would stop by the library and pick up their paper and then drop off their order later on. The kids after school would take the bag, go out, harvest everything, weigh it, make sure it's appropriate, deliver it to the teacher, receive the money, and then give it to the treasurer. And then that money would go back into the needs of the club for seeds. But it taught these students supply and demand, money handling, confidence in themselves, knowing that, yeah, I grew those. I grew those tomatoes. I'm really proud of that. And here you go. We also wrote a grant for Kaiser Permanente. And we wrote a grant for those steppable meters, they go on your waist, step counter, and for pedometers, 150 pedometers, and socks, and bags. And so we wrote the grant for the pedometer because we wanted the kids to start walking at lunchtime, because a lot of kids don't eat. So they just get into trouble, because they're not eating lunch. So, okay, go move, and let's have some fun. And so we did a sugar detox kickoff. We wrote a grant for $500, and we did the pedometers, and they got socks for their shoes. And then the bags were for when we harvest and sell the produce to the teachers. So you can just be as creative as you can for what you need. We had so many articles in the paper that little sweet elderly people reached out and said, I can't garden anymore. Would you like my tools? And so we would load up a truck with a bunch of kids and go over to the houses. And we were able to connect elderly people with young students that wanted to get their hands dirty, that really were excited to thrive, growing their own food. And so the elder generation was excited about our younger generation, and we didn't do anything alone. Any opportunity that the community could come and participate or sit in chairs outside and watch and talk, it really became a community focal event to see the school garden thrive.
That's amazing. It's the things that we're talking about today, community and coming together over dirt and produce. I mean, it's life. It's the most basic, basic blocks of being alive. And it makes you think of all the nostalgia from decades ago that folks miss today. They see it, even if they're young people, they see it in a movie. They're like, oh, the town's coming together to raise a barn, or just like, it's just I've heard countless quotes that say the best way to get to know somebody and truly understand them is to share a meal. And so it's just amazing how much y'all were able to bring your school community and the greater community together through this.
It was really, really magical. It was, I had an opportunity to come over here to Westland Wilsonville, and I'm the director of the superintendent's office. And so I just decided to come over. It was very difficult, but I decided to come. And so when I left Molalla and our creation of Oregon's 500th school garden, I thought that it was going to just continue thriving and growing, because we called it our living legacy, because we wanted the younger children that were at the dinner table with the students actively engaged to be excited for when it was their turn to come up to the high school to tend to the living legacy. But when I left, it just didn't, nobody jumped in and maintained it. There were other clubs involved, but they were already doing their own stuff on the peripheral. And so it just went away. The raised beds are still out there, but I don't believe anything's growing in it. But because of the podcast that we had, Rick Sherman and I, with Oregon Department of Education and Oregon State University on Farm to School program, it inspired one of the staff members at Molalla. And so that staff member is going to revive the program.
Oh,
and so that's really exciting. But one of the most important things to think about is sustainability, because this is what we need. This is what we need to live. This is what we need to thrive. And this is what our youth need, an opportunity to be masters of their craft. So they go to school, they participate at school. That's pretty structured. But if they have an opportunity to stretch themselves out in a garden and explore their own skills and learning in a different manner, and then to have the opportunity to harvest a carrot that they grew or tomato that they grew and share it with someone, that's empowerment. And that's something that once you teach them, no one can ever take it away from them. And so school gardens have such an opportunity to bring your community together, but they're magical. Magic is in that dirt.
Digging into this, I found you mentioned curriculum. There's a lot of resources available for bringing curricula in, and it was neat. I was just trying to think of all the different ways and all the different course subjects that could cross over, like creative writing. We can talk about the garden, or chemistry class, or math class, or
Science experiments.
there's a ton.
Yeah, we had the garden. When we had the garden, we had math out there. The whole math class would go out there, and they would do an experiment of measuring of this or that. We had poetry, like the English classes would go up there and spend the time sitting in the beans writing poetry.
Sitting in the beans, writing poetry.
You know, kids would have the opportunity, if they had a test coming up, to just go and center themselves. Go sit on the benches with the trees. Go touch the trees. And no technology, not at all, anywhere in the courtyard. If you were out there, you were with Mother Nature and one another, and the kids really respected that. We didn't have to tell anybody. We didn't have to remind anybody. It was just a matter of pride.
I love that. So, let's see. I'm trying to think of some practical things that folks would know. What if a parent or a staff member wanted to get involved? Like, how often were folks out there and in the garden? Like, what kind of time commitment was it?
Sure. So, every morning we had watering going on, and so we bought a timer on the hose so that we could have the watering, and so the kids would watch and see what was going on. If there was a problem, whoever was in charge of the garden that week would be out there. You know, I was on campus, but we had 11 officers, and I have OCD, so I really like things in line and order. And so the kids got used to Excel charts and whose week it was to tend what portion. And then in the summertime, the kids, whatever family's responsibility it was to water in the morning and in the evening, they got to take the food home.
Oh,
or
wow.
They got to take it over to the local Meals on Wheels. Whatever they wanted to do with it, they got to harvest that food. And so it was magical. You know, for the kids that don't have a lot of things, how wealthy did they feel? Being able to give, have the opportunity to smile and say, I grew this. Would you like to have food? Can I give you the most precious, honoring thing I could give you is food? You know, what a gift. And it just makes these students have so much empowerment and pride in themselves. And it's dirt. So come on, let's all get together as a community and let's give these students the opportunity to grow and to give and thrive and be healthy.
You know, it's kind of crazy. I've got one tattoo on my arm, and it's Matthew 25:35. For I was hungry and you brought me something to eat. And it just, hearing that one day, even though I'd heard it countless times, it really changed my life, because, you know, it goes through a list of, like, Jesus keeping it so simple. Like, have you fed the hungry? Have you brought them something to drink? Have you clothed them? Have you taken in a stranger? Have you visited a friend when you were sick? Have you visited someone in prison? Like, at the time, I'm like, I hadn't done any of that. I didn't do that, didn't do that, didn't do that, didn't do that. And helping our hungry neighbors, you know, whatever you do for the least of your brothers and sisters, you do for me. Like, the Bible's pretty thick, but there's only, you know, there's a couple of, like, really just basic stuff that kind of directs the way we should be living. And a lot of us have forgot that. But I'll say Boerne is a fairly affluent, fairly educated suburb, about 45 minutes from downtown San Antonio, on the outskirts of suburbia. And I dug into the numbers to find out what our percent student population was that received free
and reduced
lunches. So we have just under 11,000 students right now.
Okay.
And every single time I've said this, people are just flabbergasted. Like just over 20% of our student population receives free or reduced lunches. And that ranges from some schools, about 11.5%, all the way up to 39%.
Yes, one thing that I've discovered in public education is that people present well. You know, what you see, what you see when they present, but you don't know what's happening at home. And you don't know if they need that weekend backpack support where we put food in the backpacks for the kiddos. You don't know if they need, the holiday meal support, or if they need coats or shoes. And so by creating a garden, a community garden or school garden, because you could easily do this for your community as well. By creating a school garden, you're bringing souls in, and you're mirroring, like you said, your one tattoo that you have, you're mirroring love and acceptance to them. And you're letting them know that they have a place at the table and they're welcome to come if they want to join. And all they have to bring is themselves, and it doesn't cost anything. And we're just here with dirt. And if you want to come and play in the dirt with us, we'll give you a family, we'll give you a place to belong. And I'm sure that each one of those souls has a beautiful skill that they can share. And if they don't know anything, sing to us while we dig in the dirt. You know, it's such an amazing opportunity.
It's just fantastic. It gives me goosebumps. Tell us about this. You won a really special award.
I did.
Could you tell us
I
about
will.
that?
Thank you. So with my work with fighting childhood obesity, one tomato at a time, we actually entered into a research project with Oregon State University, and we got permission slips by the parents. And what they did is they measured and weighed the kids. The kids were really excited about this. They measured and weighed the kids at the beginning of the research project, and then asked them, what are you used to eating? Do you eat these kinds of vegetables, you know, with different cultures? What have you been exposed to or not exposed to? We did that. And then at checkpoints throughout the garden season, we would ask them, what have you tried? What did you take home? What did you enjoy? And then it was constant opportunities with the pedometers, walking, the sugar detox, with all of these indicators that we had to fight childhood obesity. The research project was really exciting because of the weight and measure opportunities that we had with these students. It really got them looking inward at themselves and thinking, do I really want to eat that? Or what's my alternative to that sugar? And then I'm going to mark it down, and here's my points. And this is a competition for the week, you know, on campus. It's really fun. So because of that work and the buzz and that everybody was doing, we had a lot of visitors coming to the school and a lot of publicity, a lot of articles. The Lund Report did an article on us. And so out of that, I was nominated by Rick Sherman with the Oregon Department of Education for the Emerging Genius Leader Award. And they give it to one individual a year, and they give it to one group a year. And I received it in 2013 or 14, one or the other, I think 14, for my work with Oregon's 500th School Garden, Culture Club, and Fighting Childhood Obesity. And so I took the kids on the bus. Those kids went with me. All 11 of them went with me because it was their award too. It wasn't just to me. It wasn't just my award. I have a picture. Here's the kids on the Capitol. That's when they went and testified. And here they are wearing their shirts, testifying.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was just so much fun. We had a hand signal, and it was this. Where's my C's? CC. 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 So the kids are always CCing each other. We got lots of pictures with the legislators that came. But I was going to see here if I had here is a picture. That was our groundbreaking.
There's a lot of
And
kids.
we have a documentary out, and it's called Many Cultures, One Goal. It's on YouTube.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
really-
if you'd like to go in 5 minutes and see these students and see the impact that it made on them and see how these students can speak as leaders about what the program meant. The song was written for us by Jeffrey Males. It's a powerful song about sharing and growing and supporting one another. But you have so many, many, many opportunities in the school garden. And for example, I won that award because of a school garden. I didn't expect it, but just imagine all the people that paid attention to that award and were reinvigorated by Kids in Dirt. And that's our hope, is you and I mirroring to others. Build it and they will come. You can do it. And so our purpose is to inspire, to remind, and to collect. We collect souls. Come with us. Let's do this together.
That sounds pretty wonderful. That sounds pretty amazing. I love that. You should be so proud of what you and the parents and other staff members and students have all accomplished. It'll change. That garden. They'll never forget that.
Never.
All the kids that pass through there.
Never. They'll never forget it. They have that foundation to stand upon. Now, when as young adults, they can plant their own. It's really nice. We actually took 5 of the students when they became adults and brought them back to the Oregon School Boards Association and did a follow-up presentation on students that were in a farm to school program, a garden program, a culture club. What did it mean to them? How did it impact them? How did it make a difference when they went into their college career and then on the other side of college into the workforce? What did that school garden, what foundation did it give to you? And it was just so magical to see a nurse and a real estate broker and a parent educator, these students that have become adults and just speak about the work that we did. And it was all around dirt. It was all around just dirt.
Yeah, that's incredible. I've dove into this a lot. Back in World War II, there was something called Liberty Gardens.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there were hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of families around the country were growing their own produce to be able to, ship as much as they could overseas. But, the scarcity was very real. And today, we don't have the scarcity. We don't have a massive war, thank goodness. But produce and groceries are very, very expensive. And,
yes.
I think the community aspect is one of this, but the health, I mean, they go hand in hand. And I'm just thinking, I think, I'm not going to try to tackle the Liberty Gardens, initiative myself, but we're going to start in Boerne and try to get really grow as many school gardens, but then also home gardens and community gardens as we can, because it just teaches you so much. It brings you together. It helps you become so much more healthy because you're eating real food that your hands grew, and it's not, a bunch of chemicals in a wrapper. So if there's any administrators or council members listening right now, so how does a community institutionalize this? And I'm thinking, because you mentioned, if one person has the spark, when they move on, whether it's a teacher, administrator, or a parent, then the school garden dies. But, we've got 12 campuses. It seems like it's enough work for a part-time employee or maybe even a full-time employee that can really coordinate the school gardens and kind of be the point for curriculum and all that stuff. Have you had any experience with the school district?
Over here in Westland Wilsonville, we do have one school garden coordinator, and it's a paid position full-time funded by the school district. And that person does a lot of taste testings. It's really exciting to get the kiddos out harvesting and following the harvesting guidelines and tasting. But we have 16 campuses. And so our school garden coordinator mainly focuses at the smaller level, at the primary level, getting those children really introduced to food. And then at our middle school, I believe we're hoping to get greenhouses out back of each one to continue the gardening program. But in today's funding and educational funding, it's very slim. Educational funding is at its limits. And so if any PTA, PTO wanted to raise funds for a school garden coordinator, that is a really good place to put your money at. Okay. Grants, it's hard to fund personnel for grants. It's a little bit easier to fund events and opportunities, but staffing is difficult.
Somebody that likes the idea but doesn't know, I gotta think like check with your local farmers market. There's going to be a master gardener there. Or in Texas, we're lucky enough to Texas A&M University has this incredible statewide agriculture extension.
So that's the key, is the extension program, because that's what partnered with us was the university extension program.
Oh, okay.
And so they came out on site with us to, we just ran by, we're thinking to do this is the sun, this is our drainage, so they just came out and were cheerleaders for us. And then they were excited seeing teenagers doing something like this. We were a YAY 4-H. YAY is Youth Advocates for Health. And so there's so many opportunities connecting with your extension office. I'd say that's where you really start, is to see the partnership opportunities there.
Okay, let somebody else guide you. If you
Yeah.
don't know. So this has been fantastic, Kelly. So helpful. I've just thoroughly enjoyed becoming friends with you and getting to know
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much for sharing so much of your experience and knowledge with us today. Besides your future plans, is there anything else you want to leave us with, or where folks can get to?
Yes. So I'm over here in Westland-Wilsonville School District. We are the cities of Westland and the city of Wilsonville, and we have a book out. It is called Leading for All, and this is our book about inclusive practices, how to create truly inclusive and excellent schools. And we are leaders in the nation, not only in the state of Oregon, but across America, in inclusive schools, and why it's right to have your 4.0 GPA student elbow to elbow with a nonverbal student. Both of those souls shine so bright. Why would we want to keep our student that experiences education a little bit differently off in a sequestered room way down over there? That's the old way of thinking. We took the bull by the horns, and we are a fully inclusive school district here. And we have people fly in from across the nation to come and see what does 16 schools look like, where everybody walks across the stage and graduates together. And so if anybody of your listeners are interested in inclusive practices, love to reach out. I'd love to talk about it. We also are leaders in conversations on race. You have to be able to have a conversation on race about that. And those are difficult conversations when you're in leadership. And so I would motivate.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my middle daughter, she's a senior in Texas State in special education. So she wants to be a special ed early elementary school teacher. And I love telling her that story because she got really excited about it.
It's beautiful work. Every single child that comes to us has such a bright spark of light. We just have to figure out the way to connect with that student. But if a student has a disability of some type, that doesn't mean that they don't belong in the general education room, having the same opportunities as their peers. And so that's what we do. We fight for that right. And it's messy work. And we're the first ones to stand up and say it's messy, but we're doing it. And come in and see us. So if anybody is interested in learning more about that, I'd love to connect and love to give support. I'm also a motivational speaker on maintaining balance and joy in the work, in servant leadership.
That's true. We can see that.
Yes. And I am a walking billboard of God's love and light. And so I'm also a spiritual advisor. And I truly, truly try to mirror back just goodness in humanity right now, because we all want to do good. We all want to see a smile on each other, but we have to smile inside first.
Well, that's pretty wonderful. That sounds like a pretty amazing place to end, Kelly. I didn't ask you where, if folks want to reach you, how should they do that? Are you on social media, LinkedIn or anything?
I'd say find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Find me on LinkedIn. That's your best place to find me on LinkedIn.
All right. Well, I'll make sure I include that in the show notes. But this has been just a wonderful hour of great knowledge and community and love and friendship and years.
Blessings.
Oh, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you. Go shine bright, please.
Wonderful. All right. Thanks so much, Kelly.
Okay. I'll see you later. Bye, Jolly. You take care.
Thanks so much for listening. Please rate and review the podcast on the platform of your choice so we can reach more people and more people are recommended this podcast. And if you really liked it, the single best way you can help us grow is by telling your friends. Now, for all the legal stuff. The views and opinion expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. For my day job, I'm an employee of AbbVie and appear on this podcast on my own accord and not in the professional capacity as an AbbVie employee. All viewpoints provided are my personal opinions and not intended to reflect those of my employer. If you have any questions or comments, please shoot me an email at jollie@interrupthunger.org. Let's go spread some joy, people.